Hello, like my little girl this morning. Yeah. Oh, I did some staging this morning. Come on in. Go. And welcome. Full moon in Aquarius. We're going to talk about that. Before we talk about that, let's just do some saging. Whoa. I don't think it's good to have the sage fall on your computer. Whoop, whoop. So bring in the blessings today. Yeah. Oh, I went for a walk this morning. Took the puppies out for a walk already. Yeah, let's just go around in a circle. Ooh, we'll go back this way. Ooh, don't want to do too much. Don't want to go too crazy. There we go. Nice. Let it burn out now. So, welcome everyone to a full moon in Aquarius. Man, that moon was so powerful last night. I don't know about you. I don't think I fell asleep till early this morning, and it was pretty crazy. It was very gnarly. This new moon, or full moon, should I say, in Aquarius. And we've had two full moons before that, and they were in excuse me. Sage is going up my nose. I'm gonna have to the two full moons before that were in Capricorn, and that's that's gnarly in itself. And now we have this blue moon and super moon, sturgeon moon. I wrote a whole thing out there, got a ritual out there for you. So if you're not on, I put it on my Facebook, and I've also put it on my newsletter. So it's out there if you are wanting to do it. It's a very simple, beautiful one. And I am really finding it that for me, I think I love the moon. I loved the energy of the moon. It was so bright. I mean, so bright that it came right into my bedroom. Like just right. Like it was as if someone turned a light on in our room. That's how powerful it was. And it's just like it was like, oh, okay. And even as the moon passed from our bedroom window, and we're in a lower suite, right? So just coming right through, even as it passed, you could still, it was just still shining in. It was still shining in. It was that powerful. It was pretty crazy. So this is, I'm going to call it a moon that it's like a stutter moon, I guess you can call it. It is a moon that if you are trying to change gears and you don't have the clutch on, and it's a full moon squaring Uranus and 1 degree off of squaring Elgo. We also have Venus not happy. She's in detriment. We know Saturn's in detriment. Saturn is squaring Jupiter and Mars, and Mars and Jupiter squaring Saturn. So we're being boxed out. This is about a lot. There's a lot of releasement that's coming in with this. And this is also about being able to radically change. And with the sun, conjunction and the square with Saturn, there's going to be a sun conjunct Jupiter that's going to square Saturn. But that's not, I mean, this sort of, this energy is going to be with us till July of 2025. So hang on. We're going to have a little bit of ups and downs and dips and turnarounds with all of this, but we want to hold on and stay fixed. This is fixed energy. Leo is fixed. We also have Aquarius. Aquarius is fixed. Taurus is fixed. You want to hang on to the way it is. You don't want to change things up. And this is where the collective's going to fall apart. And you got to find you don't try and try and find some understanding for yourself, but don't try and convince other people what you think they should be doing or how you think they should be or what have you. This is all different values, but it's also trying to find some basis within those values, some kind of point where what we need. And especially, we got Lilith and Venus together in Virgo and squaring off over to Mars. So we have this masculine and the feminine is really bringing in the darkness, and the masculine is going to, has this will of saying, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do it. So it's like this square of wanting, this is the way that we want to do it. So it's a double extreme. And we had, we got to remember Mercury's in retrograde. So there's a lot coming up in the news and media. We have Neptune at 29 degrees. Pluto is 11 days of going back into Capricorn. Why do you think there's so much craziness happening on the moon? There's so much craziness. The moon's another factor, but so much craziness that's happening in the news right now because of the chaoticness and because where Uranus is, and Uranus is going to be going retrograde on September 1st, and Pluto will be in Capricorn. And we need to find the positive. This is where you got to laugh with the disruptions, and you got to, this is where you're thinking that you're going backwards and it feels like you're going backwards, but you're not. That's why I say it's very much, you're changing the gears and you have no clutch. It is that shifting. And I'm going to talk more on the worldly fronts because that's where all the points are within the astrology now. The points are all on the world points, anything around 27 degrees, 28 degrees, 29 degrees. We are in the extremes of the world. We are in the forces of watching how the world is dividing and coming into divisiveness. And Uranus is a very much the planet of disruption, right? The planet that wants to bring in something new for us all within this world. But as it's doing it, it feels like it's a very disruptive pattern, something that is very unruly. And it's like getting something happening to your car and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's just another thing. But in getting your car fixed, or something happens to your furnace or your air conditioning, you get it and you're like, oh yeah, just another thing. But in getting that fixed, now you got it for another 10, 15 years or what have you, right? So it's looking at, it might seem like a craziness, it might seem like a disorderly um rhetoric that is happening, but it's getting you to a different spot, it's getting you to a different place. And it's so important right now to stay within the truth and the love of you, because there's so much that is going to try and push you in a world that is pushing an agenda of communism, of fascism, of wanting to, and this is exactly where Uranus was in the 1930s, right? Wanting to produce these or push these rhetorics. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. But it's that feeling of that force of what's coming forward. It's feeling that rhetoric of you're seeing the extremes of what's happening in the UK. You're seeing the extremes of what's happening in Canada, what our PM just did to the Senate. We are seeing the craziness of Kamala Harris and what she's saying. The thing is, Mercury's still retrograde, right? So we're not getting the full truth of everything. We're not seeing the fullness of what is being exposed. And especially with Uranus and Neptune. Neptune is deception. Neptune is, really watching the media go crazy and the propaganda. And what is this? Me right now. We're getting carpet installed. Both of my boys were meant to be here too to help me remove it, to finish it. My washer just broke down too. So the rhetoric, yeah, the rhetoric of it all, and the craziness that is unfolding with all of this. And we need to find that positiveness. We need to find that laughter. To live, laugh, and love is truly an essence of where we need to find that divinity within us. And with Uranus, that move forward feels backwards, and we need to be flexible. And we still have that Venus opposition with Saturn. So, pleasure in the things you don't take advantage of. So, it's almost like you're being invited to go out somewhere and you're saying, "No, I don't want to do that. No, I'd rather stay at home." Maybe that invite or that gesture of saying, "Come on, let's go do this," is what's going to get you to the next level. That's what's going to set you up instead of you stewing in your own shit, basically. So this is where a place, where you're upset and you want some glorious visionary aspect to come in. You want to have that holy moly miracle moment. You know, I remember years ago, this one mom, fabulous mom. Oh, I think she had what, 6, 7 kids. I don't know. Stopped counting after a while. But she was always upset, or always, because um, she'd go to church and she'd pray and she goes, "I just want, I want this miracle. I want this, look at, I went to go see the Blessed Virgin." Like, her and her husband took a pilgrimage and went to Croatia to see the Blessed Virgin Mary. She went all over the place. She goes, "I feel like I'm doing all these things. I should have these great miracles in my life." And I'm looking at her, you know, beautiful kids. This is a woman who redid her house, was just absolutely beautiful. She had land. She had a fabulous greenhouse. She was her kids were actually really good. They're all like, she homeschooled all her children, and I'm just like, "You don't see the miracles that are around you?" I said, "Your kids aren't doing drugs. They're not out there doing B&Es. Your kids are polite and kind. They're doing a lot of things for the community. They're volunteering." I said, "You got this huge fridge that is filled with food. You got a house, a beautiful house." I said, "You sold your last house, which basically paid for this house and your lot." I said, "You guys are practically debt free with like 7 plus children, and you're able to stay home and homeschool your kids." I said, "Wow." I said, "Isn't that fabulous?" And she kind of looked at me as if that was just like, "So," and I'm just like, "Okay, okay." You know, people who have their shit together bug the hell out of me. I wish I could adult like that. Yes. Oh, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I wish I could adult, period. But that's the thing, is that you got to look at the little things. Every day I do gratitudes. Like, I've been doing gratitudes, and it's looking at even the things maybe I don't have, but looking at it and putting the things that, I'm so happy and grateful now, that and that now, that could be whatever you want to fill in the blank with. And it's finding that at this time. This is where you got to find, because we might have that weakness of self-worth, that weakness of, looking at where we can be happy, and stop comparing ourselves to others, right? And being able to get up and do. Leos, you know, every Leo I know, they don't, unless they have some other things that are going on in their chart and stuff. But I mean, I'm going to take my dad, for example. My dad didn't compare himself to anybody. He just went out and did shit. Like, he would, he would, if somebody didn't like what he did, he really didn't care. And he was like he was a big Leo. Like, he was this force to be reckoned with in many ways. But he believed, if, this is what I believe, this is what I'm being called to do. So I'm going to do this. Others may not like it, but I'm not. And that's sort of the the tug of war between Leo and Aquarius. Will tell you that they don't try and be anybody else. They want to be, but yet they want to be. this uniqueness, and they want to make sure that you know that they're that uniqueness, that they have that tattoo, right? And Leos are like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. You see my tattoo, you don't see my tattoo, whatever. They're gonna do it, right? And that's where I feel like we're coming into this, especially where Pluto is just almost into Capricorn, and where people are wanting to find, they're trying to find that. That's why you're finding all of these crazy things coming up, um and wanting to bring back an elixir. And this is where you know the controls trying to come in to control people who can't find a job, who have to rely on the state, who have to rely and rely on that control. And if you're able to really pull away from that in some means, in some matter, is going to be important. Because when they bring in the I feel like it's going to be a push to bring in the payments for everybody. But then that payment, that what you are receiving, you can't, they're going to judge you on what you can and cannot do with that, right? They're gonna judge you on what you can buy and what you can't buy. They're gonna look and say, "Oh, well, you bought that bottle of wine last month, you can't buy it again this month." Or, "You're drinking too much coffee. You can't buy any more coffee." So they stop you with that payment at the grocery store. The push for this Marxism and socialism is on the rise. And it is where we are, and that's why our PM loaded the Senate, right? Is because it's like, if I have, because they're going to be the ones that are going to basically, if he wants something done, they're going to suck his ass to get it done, right? They're going to do it. And that's the same way, you're finding in the UK now that he has power. um Are they gonna push him out? It's gonna be a hardcore to get him pushed out in the UK right now. I don't think they're gonna go through the PMs like they did the last time. This is one who's hanging on because he wants that power, right? He wants that. And we're gonna find where the world is gonna become very fragmented as fuck, and there's gonna be so many different triggers. And this is to focus on the happy and focus on the happiness and the changes in the up level, the self-worth, the value to step forward now. This is a crazy world right now. And the overconfidence is another one. If you're feeling overly confident, yeah, I got it all together, it's going to crumble away from you like crazy. So it's finding the humility in this and the humbledness in this. And this is where you're going to find in the same thing, in the same light, is that there's going to be a lot of deception, especially with Pluto going back in Capricorn. And that's the key. And with the weird shit and the stressful shit. And this is where people are going to be starting to go really totally insane, and people losing their shit. It is going to be one that you really have to hang on. And it's going to be a very difficult one at many times to hang on, when you are going to find a lot of opposition in what it is that you are trying to do or what you are going to say. I said before, with the last full moon, that after this last, I said it, I have the receipts. Oh, I like to say that. That on the last full moon, I said that what you are posting, what you are saying online, they're going to come, they're going to look at it. Right? So if you're promoting something that is against their narrative, if you're promoting something that they don't want you to talk about or say, and they'll say it's either hateful. Now that's a whole nother kettle of fish, but they are going to try and go after you, right? They're going to try and um, take it down, or they're not going to let it go forward. Now, a lot of this is going to go with the social media outlets, where they are going to be put in to be the regulators of it. In September of this year, things like not social media, but streaming outlets are going to have to pay the government of Canada a certain amount of money in order to keep Canadian content on there, to have Canadian content so that they are able to stream in Canada. And some of them are, if you're streaming anything to do with Prime, if you're streaming Netflix, I don't think Disney's one, but you're gonna find the fees for that are going to start going up. So with your streaming services, because they really want to control and regulate the streaming services. And I know some of you are like, "Well, I don't stream anything." Well, if you stream a movie, if you watch a show, if you watch anything like that, that's a streaming service, right? And they are going to make you pay for it, right? Do you think that will stick if we change the governments? Oh, the government's not changing until next year. So whatever's in place, once they make something a law, to make it to not make it a law, to is very, very difficult, especially when you just packed the Senate with all of your people, right? So that's going to be interesting in itself. And it's going to be a difficult one. And this is, again, as I said to people, we are heading into, well, we are into World War III. They may not have announced it, but we are in a time of extreme conflict. And in September, we're going to feel the conflict even more. This is just setting up everything. And that's what August is getting everything set up. And for people who are already struggling, they're going to be feeling it even more. They're going to be feeling the pinch even more. And that's what they want. They want, and this moon is, as I said, this is an activation and we're going over the cliff. We're going over the cliff. And last night, I mean, as I said, I couldn't sleep last night. And when I looked at the different times and stuff like that, I noticed a lot of shit that was going down in the world during that time. And with the activation of this moon and the fullness of this moon, the just of this moon, the premise of the energy and the frequencies of this moon is love and coming into the love. That's what it is. And coming into a place of humility and humbleness. And that's the most important thing. This is where it's like, for a lot of, things that we watch and the addictions that we have with either the streaming services that we watch. And I know some of you say, well, I don't watch news and I don't watch it. I don't give a fuck. Like, that's great. But you won't be able to get away with what is going to be implemented upon you and the pressures that the governments are going to put upon you. And this is just a warning. This is what I'm trying to tell you. It's the same thing that I was trying to say back in 2019. Will the lockdowns come? Not in the same way. And people say, well, I'm not going if they try and do that. Well, the same argument comes in is that if they're patrolling the streets and throwing people in jail, you got to think smart. You got to be smart about this shit, what's coming in. When they're trying to push a communist regime, like I talk to people, I have clients who are from Iran, who left it. They're Christians who left Iran. They were the first ones out. Same with Syria. They were the first ones booted out. Why? Because they don't want to have anything to do with them. Because if we deal with you, that means we're going to have to deal with the fucking church. Well, we're going to get you the fuck out. They were the first ones out. And they were in the camps, the refugee camps. We don't hear about that. The next one's for the Jews. The Jewish community in the Middle East has decreased in the last year to practically 0.1% because they don't want them. They only want what they want. They only want that. That's the pushing of the agenda. That's what they're doing in different areas. That's what they're doing in the UK. In the UK, that's what they're doing in the Ukraine. They want to push this agenda. They don't want you to have freedom. They don't want you to say what you want to say. And this moon is an activation and getting you to wake the fuck up. And if you're not waking the fuck up, if you're wanting to say, my life is great, I don't really care, go to the grocery store in 2 weeks from now. And it's not the grocery stores that are gouging you. It isn't. They have a margin. It's not the grocery stores. It's everything that comes into our country. It's the tariffs, it's the taxes. It's the overhead that has to be paid, and people don't want to look at that. One of the companies that does a lot of supplying to what is it called? It starts with an S. Anyways, one of the companies, and I was looking at their chart before before the pandemic. It was at their average was 3%, above. During the pandemic, they went down to 0.75% negative, so that they could get food and everything to all the grocery stores. After everything, after about 2022, 2023, they've only gone up to 2.9%. They're not making money. They're just barely making it. Same with the farmers. They're just barely making it. And this is the awakening. This is where, okay, what can we do? Got to come into love, got to come into humility, got to come into a place where you are able to help your neighbor, where you are able to, if you're able to do that little extra for somebody, being able to do that and do it without any, oh, I want something back from it. This is about the growth and expansion, that when we can do that. And the other part too is because when the rebuilding starts to happen, and that rebuilding is not going to happen for quite a number of years, we're all going to have to we're all going to have to we're all going to have to come together. So we have to do this with non-judgment. And we got to do this with love. And that's going to be a very difficult one, because it's going to be feeling very overwhelming, especially when everything is fragmented. Is there going to be a push on Elixir? Yeah, there is. Is there going to be putting restrictions on? Yeah, there is. And the restrictions are going to be either with your banking system. You go to the bank and you don't have the money, or you thought you had that extended loan and the loan is no longer there. They pulled it. And you could have the best credit in the world, and they're going to do this because they want to make sure I can have control over you. I already got control over this person who has zero in their account. Hello. Right? But I want control over the person who has 100% credit, pays on time, who carries a 30% debt load. I want them. Because the person with a high debt load and shit, they got you. They got you. And they're going to get you. And they're going to, so that they can control. And that's part of the push for the communist regime. That's where rebellion comes in. That's where people have to stand up and do things in a peaceful, loving way, and come into the peace and come into the love. And this moon, again, is an activation with Uranus. Uranus is going to make you look at things, and you're not going to like the way it looks, but it's saying, look at this way, because I'm going to take you to somewhere better. We don't know the end result. It's great when we know the end. It's great when we know the end story, right? Because when we know the end story, we're like, oh shit, I could have done this, this, and this. But right now we're going through it and we don't know the end story as yet. Excuse me. It's coming in and it's getting us to go through it and do the steps and coming into the trust and the love that we need to come into. It's the most important thing. The pressures are going to be coming on. Payments are going to be getting heavier. And that's just a factor. Things are going to be pushed upon our children, where decisions are going to be made by a lot of parents on whether to keep their kids in school or not. And that's a big one, right? Am I going to keep my kids in school? Am I not going to keep my kids in school? What are they teaching? Because they're changing right now in the UK. The structure and everything that they're teaching the children are huge. Right? And it's the same agenda as somebody else with a funny mustache was teaching and getting the agendas being brought into the schools. We may not see it right away here in Alberta, but it's going to start in the east and then it's going to move over this way and it'll eventually be here. So better believe we are getting a greenhouse and chickens before this happens. Get your chickens, get your greenhouse. If you're able to do that, absolutely fabulous. Fabulous. Also the thing is that you got to remember is that also with your chickens and stuff like that, they're going to ask, and I don't know if they already are doing it here in Canada. I think someone said they are. Is that you got to register your chickens just like you register your dog. So they want to know how many chickens you have. Right? Rates are going down, but the rates went down. See, that's the thing. People think the rates are going down is a good thing, but how is that a good thing when unemployment is at its highest? Nobody can find a job. Food prices have gone up to 30 to 50%. Rates cutting down is just an illusion of the things and making you think everything is fine when it's not. That's what they did before 1929. They cut the rates, they cut the rates, they cut the rates, they cut the rates. And in doing that, that's where you're going to find all of a sudden, people are going to overextend themselves. Now you're in the debt because you think, oh well, hey, it's not 6% anymore; it's 4%. Oh, they're cutting the rates, but yet that 4% of what you thought was, say, a house is $1.3 million, and it's not worth $1.3 million. It's worth maybe $300,000 or less. Yet when everything crashes, you're stuck with a $1.3 million loan on a house that's only worth $300,000. So you got, this is, I'm not a financial advisor. This is just what I've seen. This is just what I understand, especially when I watch other people who are in economics and marketing, and along that line. So, and the other part too is that if you have a young person who is of fighting age, this is where it's like, be aware, be smart. I have clients and I have people that I know who've gotten visas to different countries so that they're able to leave and being able to go. Exactly. It's a big pill to swallow. It is. It is. It is a big pill to swallow, and it's a difficult one. And I feel for all of us, it's really to come into a place again of that place of harmony, of the place of peace, and going and finding that balance is a huge one with all of this. Man. So I have the astrology club is coming up on on September 9th. So we have the astrology club. It's $50 if you register now. You have I love my people. You have to pay if you pay the $50 before September 1st in order to get the $50 deal. You can't register and then say, oh, can I pay on the 10th or the 9th? Then it's $75. My son will be shipped off to New Zealand. Many people are leaving New Zealand like crazy right now because the farmers are having a hell of a time. A girlfriend of mine's sister has been living in New Zealand for the longest time. She married a a Kiwi. She married a Kiwi, and they're having a hell of a time with their farm. They have sheep and chickens and all kinds of things, and the pressures that are being put upon them is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, if you're able to find a place for 600K with land and stuff like that, you got a really good deal, and that's a really good thing. Antarctica, here I come. I'm gonna go live with the penguins. Oh, but places like a lot of places are places that people don't think about. if you're able to, is to looking at places like Thailand, looking at places of different South American countries are another one. Um, Looking at even places that you wouldn't necessarily think about it, and Eastern Bloc countries too, or they're not Eastern Bloc, but Eastern countries as well, because their economies are actually doing quite well. And
you want to go in Eastern country? No way.
Well, there's a lot of them that are doing fine. They're doing quite well,
Yeah,
and to
when
live.
the war hit, they're right there, man.
Huh?
Me, I'm going Caribbean.
Steve's going to the Caribbean.
Yeah, they ain't gonna be fighting down there.
They're not going to be fighting down in the Caribbean. You don't want to piss off a bunch of Jamaicans or Trinidadians. The government, they brought in, are trying to take it back to the days of colonization. Yeah, I take it back to colonization. That's an interesting word, but they're just wanting to take it back to power, back to the 1930s, right? And that's fascism, and that's Marxism, and that's when you have a centralized government and they have full control over it. You know, colonization. I don't probably. It's still that centralization of government, right? And that's what's interesting. So we have the Five of Swords. So thinking that you won, but you probably haven't won, thinking that you've gotten over it, but there's always somebody who gets hurt over this all. So it's looking at, a lot of that, right? No land but a backyard that we can do stuff. Financially, it's a great property with a basement suite that goes for $1,500 a month. Cool. Basement 1,500. Wow. That's crazy. But yeah, if you can do it, absolutely. Kudos to you, to be able to do that. That's great. Anybody who can, if you're able to have a backyard, do a garden and do that, I mean, you could grow so much there, right? His people can cook. People are coming with you to Trinidad or wherever you.
That's the best place. You want to see where the war is? Europe and Western Canada. They're going to be bombing the Caribbean for what? It's out here they want. These countries, France and Canada, America.
Anybody who
Ukraine,
doesn't,
all them places.
that's my husband in the background who's speaking. So if anybody who didn't know, that's Steve. So if you can hear, so we got the star reversed. So it's a hard one to understand with everything, right? They are wanting to stop the Maori thing again, like the Indian Act, but it's called the see, yeah. And they're trying to do that in Hawaii as well, right? And trying to stop the people from owning the land or having transitional generational land and having it being able to pass down, which is really which is sad. But it's like, if I can take away heritage, well, that's what they're trying to do in the UK too. They're trying to take away the heritage of the UK and of Ireland, right? Because if I can take away that, then we can have control. And the thing is when fuck Stephen. The thing is, when you do things like that, it's going to cause disruption. It's going to cause disharmony, right? And when you're trying to make everybody into a melting pot and think that it's going to be okay to be a melting pot, it's not, right? Not everything needs to go into a pot because it sometimes doesn't taste as good, if you're putting everything into the stew. Just saying. So the star is about self-doubt, it's a sense of pessimism. So with this, with the 5 and the star reversed, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of pessimism, there's a lot of self-doubt. There's a place where you can't be afraid to ask for guidance. You can't be afraid to stand up and ask for it, and pray to your God, pray to God. Do your prayers, do your meditation. It's so so important. I'd go home just to fight it. Yeah, it is. It's a horrific. Well, look what they're doing to Australia right now, and the things that are going on in Australia as well, and the things that they are doing there, and bringing in the digital currency, and that's the digital currency is also where another form of control. I am going to tell you how much I'm going to put in your account and what you can and cannot do with it. And this is where you're going to find the bread lines are going to be longer. And the fight is going to be within the bread lines because people aren't going to have food. And it's going to be difficult for them to be able to do a lot of things that they are wanting to do. So when you're ready to move forward, you're going to be experience the transformation you need. We just have to continue to go forward. We just have to continue to do. And it just feels like everything is not going. Everything feels topsy-turvy. And that's what Uranus is. And it's going to take us to get through this. This is the feeling. This is the preparedness. This is what 2024 is. This is really getting us to see things fully and completely, because 2025 is when everything just starts hitting and being thrown, and especially in around March of next year. And that's when things really start getting becoming heavy headers. So the emotional edge, and that's what this is, where a lot of people are on their emotional edge. And this is where we have to be careful and watch out for any overindulgence or any escapism. So if you're doing anything that you're trying to escape, is really going to be very, very difficult. Mom was telling me on the weekend that the government knows everything we do now. She lives in Australia. Yeah, well, they do. I mean, they basically have an idea about what they do. I mean, in 2019, when the computer started up, the large computer, the Google computer, I mean, it started to analyze everything that we do, and it could figure out scenarios before you even do them, figure out your habits before you even do what you think. You think it's going to be spontaneous, but the computer's saying it's not spontaneous. They already know. And it's the financials and all the health things, definitely. And that's why for many who did go out and get elixired, I mean, this is where it's you got to come in with compassion for them and understanding for it. But many of them who did it, your information is more well known than somebody who didn't. They're still trying to get a hold of the ones who didn't go in and get elixired, right? Because they don't really have that full control over them or their health records as much. So that's the other thing with this. So really finding a creative outlet that you need in order to release any shadows, anything that's holding you from the resentment, from feeling isolated, from feeling overwhelmed. So there you guys go. On this full moon in Aquarius. Look up on my Facebook. I did put that little ritual out there. So looking at the intentions you really want to put into this moon and set forward for this moon. If you are wanting to join me for September 9th for Astrology Club, the Astrology Club, we go through your natal chart and the transits and how the transits are affecting your chart. And we are also going to be talking about the eclipses that are going to be coming up and how Pluto is really affecting not only your chart, but the world around us. So we're going to be talking a lot about that as well. So if you're wanting to join me and get a better understanding on what it is that I say, and talking a little bit more about the personalities of the planets and what those personalities are like, and how to work with the different planets and the different frequencies that they bring forth. So that's what we're going to be doing. And we meet once a month. And so this time, $50 before September 1st. Let me know after September 1st, it's $75. was a movie made in 2000 regarding the computer that could see the future, acts, and oh yeah, remember that. Remember that. So do the opposites of what Google thinks. So do the opposite of what Google thinks. Exactly. So have a blessed one, everybody. Sending you out so many blessings. May the Lord and Lady watch over and bless you and all that you say and all you be and all you do. And we will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.